It was an intense, and it still is, an intense hearing, heated at times. Did you get the questions you wanted answered by
No,
Dr.?
no, and once again, Attorney General Holder continued his CYA operation by not accepting responsibility for who in the Justice Department was responsible for signing off on Operation Fast and Furious. Walking guns across the border and giving them to the Mexican drug cartels is stupid. And somebody should have blown the whistle, and whoever approved this and failed to blow the whistle, I think ought to be fired.
And you made it clear. You said, we are tired of not getting the truth. You reminded Holder what ICER said, that lying to Congress is a felony. But he told you, hey, nobody in justice has lied.
Well, his definition of lying and mine is a little different.
Yeah.
He is going to be claiming some kind of executive privilege or some kind of immunity for what law enforcement is doing. I think the American public and the Congress are fed up with this continuous evasion of responsibility in passing the buck. One Border Patrol officer was killed by one of these firearms in the hands of a member of the Mexican drug cartel. At least we owe it to that officer's family to get to the bottom of this and find out how it happened and why it happened, and to make sure it doesn't happen again so that more Border Patrol officers or other law enforcement officers are not unnecessarily murdered.
And Congressman, you came out and you said, hey, what are you doing to clean up this mess? Were you satisfied with his answer?
No, and I said if he continued not coming clean to Congress, the only way Congress can get around all of the immunity and separation of powers argument is to commence an impeachment inquiry. Eric Holder himself can stop an impeachment inquiry in the tracks by coming clean and coming up with adequate and truthful explanations of how this got approved and how it got so far out of hand. And so far, what he's done is he's sent letters which ended up being withdrawn because they were inaccurate and untruthful. And I've been in Congress for almost 33 years now, and I have never seen an administration official of any administration actually withdraw a letter months after the fact that was sent to Congress saying that it was not accurate.
Right. And again, you repeated on the same issue about this letter. Senator Grassley's call for Lanny Brewer to resign. And he's standing behind Lanny Brewer. So if nobody resigns, I mean, he says, I'm being responsible. Is that what you call responsible if he doesn't hold anybody accountable?
Boy, if I acted or defined responsibility that way when I go home tonight, my wife is going to blow her top. It's irresponsible. You know, when you do something wrong, you ought to learn from your mistakes. You ought to admit it, and you ought to make sure that something as egregious as this never happens again.
And yet he sits there and he says, I know that we are going to feel the effects of this deadly operation for years to come. He says we're all going to pay a price. There's going to be more victims. And yet they act as if, you know what, hey, we aren't responsible for this.
Well, on our side of the border, there's one victim too many.
Mm-hmm.
The drug cartels in the last 5 years have killed 40,000 people in Mexico. Not all of these people were killed by the firearms in Operation Fast and Furious, but one victim is one victim too many.
And do you think he helped himself in any way today?
No, absolutely not. He raised more questions than he answered, and he's going to have to answer them sooner or later in some forum.
But, you know, you've got the Democrats up there, and again, Holder jumped right on their bandwagon talking about, hey, you know, you're overlooking what we really need to be talking about here, and that's about more gun laws, and we need to give ATF the tools they need, like this multi-gun reporting scheme that they're trying to push.
More gun laws and more regulations, you know, are not going to reduce the crime rate by people who use firearms for legal purposes. And what Holder is doing is the typical liberal anti-Second Amendment line, saying blame a piece of machinery, not blame the people who misuse machinery or get that machinery into the wrong hands. And I would say that members of the Mexican drug cartel are probably the worst hands to put firearms into.
And how about when he was asked, did you tell the Homeland Security Secretary? No. Did you call and tell Hillary Clinton? No. Did you talk to Mexico? No. And he says they're cooperating with them?
That's not the way the Mexican government looks at it, and I don't say very many good things about the Mexican government. They have been complaining about the lack of information and lack of cooperation, and on this one, I think they're right.
So where do we go now after this? He's told, Holder today that he admitted. He says, you don't have all the emails, you're not going to get them.
Well, if he doesn't come clean, then the next step would be an impeachment inquiry into the entire Justice Department. Eric Holder can stop an impeachment inquiry by coming clean, by disclosing all of the emails, or resigning.
And I know you said that today, and I said that's not, and you said that's not the direction you want to go. But what about a special prosecutor?
Well, he's rejected a special prosecutor when that's been called for. We do need a special prosecutor because otherwise the Justice Department is investigating itself. And you can't be judge, jury, and umpire all at the same time.
But do you think today made any more clear who called this, who put this out there, who ordered this kind of operation?
No, and again, he's there. The wagons are in a very tight circle, and today was a classic Washington CYA operation.